Tar with Cate Blanchett. I don't know what to. The thought I had was like, this is what acting is. This is like when I teach acting, and I want to get back to that in some kind of way. Lately I've been like, just thinking back very fondly on the experience I had, and then also it's been long enough that I've been able to have the great pride of an acting teacher, which is to see your students succeed. And I think in many cases, I didn't even have a whole lot to do with that. The student themselves is the one who does the work. I am there to help them in some way, to prepare something for something difficult. That's how I look at it. Is like, what can I do to help facilitate the work of the actor? Now, I'm very curious about Cate Blanchett's process, because I think that she must be. What is the preparation for this? Especially because of the nature, the demands of the film. Just that, it's just so much material. And it's so specific, and you have to seem like you know what you're talking about. And you also have to conduct, and she looks awesome conducting. If you really went to see, you understand, like, this portrayal, you're like, okay, I understand why, if there was such a person as Lydia Tarr in the world, I understand. If there was such a person, Bunga, as Lydia Tarr in the world, you would understand why she is this essential force in music, and why she's so praiseworthy, and why she's a superstar. Okay, let's say the Tar itself is a conversation on the life of it's about fame on one hand, but also just that what it is to pursue excellence at that impossible level, and to push performers in that way. And I think that it's akin to, its twin film is Whiplash in so many ways, and it has Juilliard in common. Juilliard is fucking fucked up. I wish I could have gone to Juilliard. I wish I'd gone to like a big acting school. But then again, I think that what they're pointing out is that with all the great ultra training, and Cate is also a product of some extraordinary training, and so the scenes of teaching, which are harrowing and tough, and all in one fucking take with some crane or something. It's just a really, really cool cinematic achievement in that way. And it's not a Steadicam shot, because that draws all this attention to the Steadicam. So quite often, you sort of are thinking about the technique, and it when you're thinking about the technique or the medium, then you might be admiring something, but you don't feel part of it. And here I was just like, okay, I'm in Cate Blanchett's classroom, and every time I see a Cate Blanchett performance, I just say, how does she do it? And so, the preparation that I would recommend, based on this, is a kind of immersion. But imagine just going, if you're an actor, because I don't think you want to get caught up and carried away in a performance that is, how can you portray, the danger of portraying someone who is this self-destructive is that you yourself would become self-destructive in the process, right? So, I mean, you're immersed halfway up to your waist. Let's say that. How about you walk in? It's like you're walking into the water. You go in halfway. There's some times where you hold your breath. You're going to go all the way down. But you know that at some point you will come back up again. I think that however you do this stuff, you have to remember that. I mean, I don't want to. I think that it's totally possible to do performances such as these with the thing that you hear about actors, male actors primarily, is that they're just putting themselves through fucking hell, and that they live it, and that they're but there's no single. I think that is that's a special privilege that's been afforded like a couple of people, and a couple of people. And a couple of people have been able to do it correctly, hopefully without affecting anybody else around them, because I think that it could be really terrible to be around somebody like who's that method. And I don't think it's actually necessary. I think that there are a lot of, and if you're going to the method, you would seek like Isaac Butler's book, The Method, which will praise method acting, like the Stella Adler techniques that, again, I wish I, could know firsthand. Love to study at a place like that. But then again, I also really, really just want to study Stella Adler and those techniques. Anyway, I don't espouse any one technique, because I have my own instincts that I have to follow. So the only piece that I would take away from such a thing, if there are acting lessons, is that there is preparation, there is immersion. But in order to do the work of such a thing, you can't burn out in front of the camera. I don't think anybody wants to see that. In the learning of how to perform, how to look like the world's greatest conductor, because she is just throwing her body into it, and she's just so cool to watch. And we all have to agree that Cate Blanchett is just incredible to watch. And she also did a few things that, I mean, she goes from the bombastic experience of conducting, and it's just like you see her and just she throws her body at it. I mean, there was that episode of Documentary Now where she like paints herself head to toe, and she was playing like this performance artist, and she throws herself against a wall, and she's so. It's also one of Cate Blanchett's great performances, is that episode of Documentary Now. Just one of those great Cate Blanchett moments. It's among the great, in my opinion, just because it's like, damn, she throws herself body and soul into it. But I do believe that what you must do is sort of save the best for the camera. Because I just don't want an actor. This is like self-care for the actor, I guess, is the essence of this. That you have to care for the person that portrays that. You have to be, and there aren't people out there sort of, sometimes there are people who are like, honey, you have to like pull it back a little bit. Like sometimes there isn't, like sometimes nobody knows how to deal quite with an actor who is, I don't think that, see, the truth is directors can get very close with actors and really like get those performances, but there's also plenty of times where with great performances, directors also know how to be like, action, step out of the way and let the magic happen, which anybody who is directing Cate Blanchett doing such a thing. I mean, what is the conversation? So, okay, when you're talking about a certain composer, so she talks about composers in depth, and so she has to have a relationship with each of those composers, not just this what she's doing is she is developing this like depth of feeling and connection to her material. And there is so much material to this. It is just this endless Cate Blanchett monologue at times. But she's just such a, from what I can tell, is just a very reliable professional as well. And obviously she trains physically to do these things, and she shows off her body in the movie plenty too, like doing she's like kickboxing and stuff like that at times. Like she's like a super star in this movie. I mean, this is really the Cate Blanchett like ultimate performance, I think. And so in preparing, this is the question it's just make it a question that you ask yourself at all times. It's just, okay, let me build up to that. And it doesn't mean you just throw yourself into cold water one day. People who learn to swim in cold water have learned to control their breathing little by little. And I hate the water. I don't go in. Most of the time, I'm just like, oh, I can't go in the water. I didn't bring a suit. Truth is, I didn't even bring a suit on this vacation. You know, like anyway. But acting, the experiences I've had that have been the deepest, the most profound, and the most stirring, and the most affecting, and the ones that are immersive, I had to prep within days to go on. And that's like a lot. That's a film too. You know, you may just only have the day or two, or you just have to go when they say go. Hopefully you would have a little bit of preparation. You'd know ahead of time when it's happening. Maybe you're cast in advance, you know, hopefully, and so you would have time. But I just had what I had, and, you know, it's just all this. This is the time I had to get familiar with the material, throw myself in. And so I knew that the deepest I would go would be on stage. There's no reason I have to be in that moment, because I have to drive, and I have to get sort of like, I had to schedule it, you know? I couldn't get lost in it. And so I'd schedule like, okay, first part of my day, I think your brain, with the moments that I had, so I had like a day to get ready before the rehearsal and then the show. So this was the prep. In the morning, I got up nice and early, and I hit the material really hard. And one way of prepping material would be in front of a camera. I think it's a really good idea. I think you do learn it faster. So if you do get your material, as soon as you can, go in front of your camera and start. And you'll find, and then you'll probably play it back again later, and you'll watch it. And I think in the process, your brain learns that material much, much faster. So I would recommend that kind of, or recording in some way. Voice recording and then playing it back is also essential. I think that, why don't you use every tool at your disposal to help your memory with this extraordinary job it's about to do, which is kind of unusual and almost superhuman. And it's the reason that a lot of people are scared of acting, is because they don't think that they can memorize all that material. But if you do anything steadily enough, it's just like working out, or like running, like, you know, which I also hate, in addition to all my metaphors, you know. But if I were to run, if I had to run a lot, I'd build up to it. You begin, you know, let me get quarter mile, let me get that 3K, let me get that, you know, 5, you build up. I also know that when called upon, I can run. And I don't want to make acting into some athletic feat, you know, which I'm afraid it's turning into as kind of an extreme sport. And I don't dig it, man. I think that, like, so funny, the year that, like, Leonardo DiCaprio won for The Revenant, where he did, and it is, of course, that performance. It's so, like, he goes every step of the way, man. It's incredible. And he always like delivers, but man, like this one was so physical. In that, like, I mean, he was just down in the shit with it, man. He was just covered in grime, and then they took away his good looks, and so, you know, because I like Gatsby. I think Gatsby's is like, that's a great Leo performance, but he's too cute, so like nobody digs it. In the same way, like you have to get like he's like, all right, I'm gonna win this motherfucker, man, and so he just got into it in a way that ensured it, and yet the same year. You know, the other great performance that year in his category was Bryan Cranston as Dalton Trumbo, who I just remember at the clips they'd show of Leo. It's just the clips they show of Bryan Cranston as Trumbo. He's just like smoking a cigarette, and he's like, and he just, but then he just Bryan Cranston has tremendous presence, control, and technique. Oh my God, that guy can just, it's just, and yet he the way I would view a Bryan Cranston performance is like this guy knows all his moves. He's master of that material, and like a Shakespearean actor, like who knows that material, like, and you know, his characters take on that kind of like Shakespearean kings, like they really do. And it's just him. It's not the characters. It's not just the writing, which is phenomenal. It's him. The writing is sort of like this pattern, this amazing in your preparation. The writing is just this extraordinary map, this pattern, and it's so easy to follow. It's just you go with it, and it's not going to be perfect. And so your job as the actor is to make it, is to help fill in those gaps that are left for you. And sometimes those gaps that are left in there, it's like, okay, have we explained what this guy does for a living, or have we explained where this guy comes from? No. Okay, then you as an actor, that is your task. What a great task. What a cool, that's not a gap in the writing, that's just an opportunity for you now. Because most of the time the writing is going to leave you gaps like that. And so sometimes those are the points where you're like, oh, am I married? I'm going to like put a ring on, I'm going to get a prop ring and put it on the finger. It's probably a good prop to own. I don't own one, but I probably should. I used to. Anyway, when, brought to you by LaCroix. I think that's how you pronounce it. Good shot, man. Great stuff. Finally, to return to Cate Blanchett, who has been teamed with Leo DiCaprio, and they're just so great together, aren't they? Just because here's just two like performers that just don't. They just give that hundo, you know. They just give that 100%, man. Cool as hell. She's played a lot of kind of despicable people too before, you know, like that, you know, in the film they have together, you know, Don't Look Up. They're both like full of flaws, you know. But I also think that's how much of that is because they have these. It's great writing. And yet it's also filled in extraordinarily with the vulnerability of these tremendous actors. So, okay, like I'm praising them because I'm also trying to figure out what they do so well. So, your preparation, perhaps, is like one way to think about it, is that you're following you know, you're following that map. And along the way, you're like, oh shit, there are snakes. Okay, start back again. I mean, that's the thing. You have to start over again. Okay, this time I'm putting the boots on. Okay, okay, and literally put boots on, like in your preparation. You're going through, you're preparing your backyard, or, you know, get some space, and physicalize it as you're going through. So this is your guide, is this incredible material. If you don't know what that shit means, find out, because you have to get up there and you have to know what you mean. If you don't, you know, as they say, if you don't know what you mean, no, if you don't know what you're saying, it's just going to come out like, blah. It shows, you know, when an actor, it's a thing that a young actor struggles with, I'm sure, because how could, you know, I mean, the really like tremendous performances that we think about come, I think, after an actor. I mean, think of like how Sean Penn wears his life on his face when you're seeing him. He's absolutely like you've got, when you look at this character, the way he holds himself and the way he's letting you see of himself, is if acting is measured in commitment, I guess it's measured in commitment. Great acting, greatness in acting. If you treat it like if you want to know what the secrets of the greats are, I think it just boils down to that commitment and the time that you put in. It doesn't matter if you just you can't just be expected to have it on the moment. I don't think you want to leave that many things to chance. Excuse me, LaCroix. Brought to you by LaCroix. It's lemon flavor, but that's just what it says on the can. I'm an actor. I'm used to pretending. So, if we were to treat our preparation as a bonding experience with material, yeah, that's the first part of your day. Okay. The next part of your day, give it some time to sink in. Okay. Seriously, take a break from it and breathe and get a workout if you can. Do something active. It doesn't have to be hardcore. It doesn't have to be anything. And it doesn't even call it a workout, because I don't want to turn this into like a physical acting. Like, I don't want to turn into a sport. Okay, I think that, but do something active. And as you're actively doing that, you're going to be naturally running that material. And let's just say that you just go and do the dishes, man. Like, put the material right in front of you, and you're putting all your passion into the suds. And likewise, if you are going to go to the gym and you're going to hit the treadmill, this is a good exercise even if you don't have a gig coming up. Go and pick out that dream role. What is it? Is it Hamlet? For me, I have Hamlet. What's his name? The Valmont from Dangerous Liaisons. That's a dream role, man. Like that kind of thing. Historic figures, maybe. I dream of playing Elon Musk. Like, that would be a great role to take on. Or like Volodymyr Zelensky is like a dream role. Is why actors are so in love with him, because he is an actor, but he's also he's just so real. I think when this thing is all done, I want that guy to be an international movie star. When this war is done, let's give Volodymyr Zelensky like a role, because that guy is gonna be fucking incredible and deserves the glory that, when his term as president is done, let's get that guy into showbiz where he belongs, man. And all those things. And I understand he and Sean Penn, going back to that for a second, I understand he and Sean Penn are like bros. Anyway, like, Sean Penn wears his life on his face. So when you see one of his films, because we have a whole lot more of those, it's harder to find a Volodymyr Zelensky film. They're out there. I want to check out. I want to see what he does as an actor, because I really like. I just admire him, and I keep his picture on my wall, and I guess he's my acting. What an acting role model, So, anyhow, there's another kind of preparation. That's just life. It's just what you bring to it. And it's part of all the energy that you're infusing into this pattern. What is it? It's your material, your script. What you're infusing into that. Think of it as a dry river. Okay, a dry riverbed. And if you've flown in an airplane over the desert and you look down and you see those dry riverbeds, just these patterns in the sand. It's a cool thing to watch. And what I think of is your role is like that. So there's a few ways of infusing it. I mean, the pattern of Hamlet is always the same. Essentially, I mean, those words are the words, even if they change, or their meaning changes through time and all those things. But it's the same script. I mean, it is. One of my favorite possessions is this old script that has an actor's notes in it. It's a very old edition from like 100 years. It was at least 100 years old. And it had this actor's like notes in it. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And it's part of what makes it cool. These were the things that if he was using this old edition and he had a pencil and he just wrote down his blocking in there, it's cool. I don't follow anybody else's like pattern. My energy is mine. So I don't act like other actors. That's not what it's about. I admire all these people that I'm talking about. They're incredible. But it doesn't do me any good to like run after them and try to do exactly what they do. Whether it's that physical thing that Christian Bale does, those transformations that he does with his whole body. I don't know. I think that I would do a flavor of that. Like I would do, like for the right role, I would bulk up a little bit. It's not a bad excuse to hit the gym. But for me, the preparation, it has to be more of like how I connect emotionally. Physically enough. I'll connect physically as I can with it. And I'll do whatever's required. But how deep do I want to go and how unhealthy do I want to be? I mean, and that's just what I want to keep you out of. As your coach, as your teacher, I just want to keep you... There's a funny conversation about this. I got into this debate. Stephen Adley Guirgis, the playwright, I became Facebook friends with him, and I communicated with him a little bit, and I thought he was cool as hell with his fans, because he's just like... And I don't feel very cool around a guy like that. Like, I feel like a dipshit around like smart people like that. He's awesome, because he's just exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, here's the world's greatest playwright, and he's been sitting on top of the world before, and he's won every prize. And he's real cool with his fans. And so I got into this cool debate with him once, because he put up this... Okay, this is really funny. I don't know where this came from. I think I put it up. I must have put up a post, and he was real active on Facebook for a while. And I'd like to find him again. He was cool as hell. Anyway, then he gets into it with me because he's like, we were talking about Joaquin Phoenix, and I said, wait a minute, how far is he going too far? That's like, should I be worried about Joaquin Phoenix? It was one of those articles of like Joaquin Phoenix goes fucking ape shit in the Joker, just like people are describing this insane process and making it sound... I mean, I think that he prepared very deeply, but he would go as far as any other actor would go. That's the thing. It's just that when he does it, he shows this incredible human struggle that goes along with all of these things. In the process of making it real, which is what he is, it's what we are doing, it's what we're here to do, is to take something very imaginary, no matter what it is, and believe in it and throw our body at it. Because if we do that, the delicate art of the performer, of throwing one's body at it, which is what you fucking do. I mean, that's what acting really is. And so I said, okay, wait a second, this is going a little far. Is this going to hurt somebody, or is he going to get hurt in this process? And Stephen Adley gets on, and he's just like cussing me out, and he just says, that's the most disciplined... Joaquin is doing the most disciplined fucking performance I've ever seen in my life. Like, what he is doing, holy... And I said, hang on a second, wordsmith, I really, really value this guy's opinion, but I was also like, hold on a second, let me ask you this, as a writer who writes extreme things for actors, like, don't you think excuse me for a sec. Don't you think that you are... I've been rolling a joint this entire time, sorry. Don't you think that you have some responsibility to your colleagues here, man? You know, I mean, like, you write for actors. So how can you make sure that actor doesn't hurt themselves in this process? And he said, okay, how about this? Imagine it's a ledge. They're walking way out there on that ledge. And they're able to do it because you're there with them. They're not doing it alone. You know, like, and that's a very, very important point. I mean, you're responsible for it, and there are times where it's like, it's all about you, baby. When the camera rolls, I mean, there's all these departments working all around. When the camera rolls, it's you. You are it. You are the object. You're the ultimate thing. And if we're going to make this thing believable, then do your thing, baby. However, he said, imagine that you've got a rope and that you can there's a rope tied around them. They're doing the very dangerous thing. Like, that guy is jumping off of a building. Oh, wait, you know, like, there's a safety net. And it's you, actually. It's you, their colleague, who, now, instead of it being like, what if it was like this fucking asshole who is just so into his role that he makes everybody deal with a lot of his shit? Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the really fine stuff. The mind-blowing performances that come, like, unexpectedly and are just like, they just are possessed of that special, unforgettable magic. And I think it's a couple of things that win you an Oscar. Because I've thought about this. Like, what is it? What is it about those performances? They're just unforgettable. It's that they are unforgettable characters. Okay? Why did Frances McDormand... Why? I knew that Frances McDormand would win for Fargo. And I can't remember everybody that she was up against that year. But I was just like, this unusual, quirky performance is going to win. And of course, she's one of the winningest performers in history. You know, she has 3 Oscars, right? If you are measuring it in terms of prizes, she's got them all, you know? Because she creates these unforgettable performances. Unforgettable characters, in particular. And what is a character that is unforgettable? I think that it's just deep. It's measured. The greatness there, let's measure it. Not in terms of what we think is awards bait, but like, don't measure it in terms of what you think you should be doing. Like, don't measure it in terms of what Christian Bale does to win. Measure it in terms of how far you want to go with it. And like Stephen Adley Guirgis said, like, you're there. They're out on that edge. And they're doing this very, very painful thing, and it's hard to watch your friend do this thing sometimes. You're just like, there's so much risk to this. And so you help them any way that you fucking can. You be there. And when it's you who's out there, you know, like, rather than you being an asshole about your, you know, like, think of like, there's that damn, when Jim Carrey did Man on the Moon, and then they made a whole documentary about like how he was so immersed in this character who happened to be an asshole that like he accidentally was like really like just like he went too far into it in this way that in the creation of a performance, you did all the extra things. He did all the thing. He worked a little too hard. Worked a little too hard in the wrong direction, perhaps. And I applaud. You know, it's not about the work. It's not about what happens in front of the camera, which of course is like of course he's the only man for that job, and of course it's brilliant. I mean, the project was meant for him. I mean, it was extraordinary. We're not going to doubt his level of commitment there or his technique in pulling it off. But if it comes with anything extra, then okay. Let's say that you have to get into it. Let's say that you really, really have to get into this character. Get into in a space then. In a proper space. Perhaps with a coach, so that it's a compartmentalized amount of time. Maybe you just take a phone call with a trusted friend, another actor perhaps. That can be the best coach. I'm that actor friend. Like, call me up. Like I will. Like, seriously, we help each other in that way. I had a great actor that I was working with once, Wilfried Capet of France, who he had to cry in this masterpiece called Age of Ice. Which look, I know that the preposterous nature of that premise is so wild, but like, we committed. Like, that's the thing, we absolutely committed, and the conditions of that making that film were so extreme that we just bonded. And I love the director, so I was happy as hell to oblige this sweet man with his very difficult task. We all committed, okay, and I'll just treat it as an acting lesson. What the hell? I mean, plenty of people have like come up to me and just been like, have said it to my face. For some reason, what the fuck is wrong with people that they come up and like will criticize a thing that you've done? And they'll say, you did a good job in it, but like, then they'll talk shit. And it's just like, those are family to me. Like, why don't you fuck off and like get busy on finding, like, reconnecting with your own like family who doesn't talk about you, man. My point is, I was in the scene, and we're just so heavily committed because we know that the only way through this thing is with each other. Like, we were really cold. It was fucking cold. 2014, the polar vortex, fucking freezing. And I did a couple of projects in that freezing cold in Michigan, because that's the thing about making movies in Michigan is it's you gotta know understand how to deal with the conditions, and you have to layer. That's also the secret. You have to know how to layer. He said, okay, the scene is a few days away, and I have to cry because I've lost my friend. I said, oh, shit, man. He said, what do you do, like, with something like that? I said, I don't know. I mean, crying in a scene either happens or it doesn't. And if it happens, great. I mean, certainly where we started with, thing about Tar, or there's a scene in Tar that I won't talk about because it's so beautiful, but why don't we talk about like another similar scene that I from Dangerous Liaisons, where Glenn Close, who they ought to just give her an Oscar even if she didn't like have a film. I don't know what. Anyway, she's so good in Dangerous Liaisons in this close up where a single tear runs down. How does she do it? Well, that's the delicate art, the actor. How did we do it? Okay. I just said, I don't know, man. I don't know how you're going to do that. It's hard, but I'll be there. I'm going to be there for you. I'll be right there every moment, feeling every bit of that. Don't you forget it. Don't you, you should know that you're not doing this by yourself. And I'll help you any way that I can while I'm with you, man. Because you're doing a lot for me, man. We do everything. The hardest things, you do together. You're not just together through the good times. You got to be together through all those times. The hard times, man. Because those are the most rewarding. And that's where we learn the most. And those are the great acting moments, aren't they? I mean, so making tears fall out of your eyes. It either happens or it doesn't. How did I get there? Okay, so I'll talk about it. It's a thing that only happens to me now. Happens a little too easily now, I think, to be honest, because I've experienced more in my life. It doesn't mean that I run around crying all the time, but in my work, I seems to come. So, as I was playing Lord Capulet. This is the role that I was preparing for, and I only had a day and a half, to get it ready. I had to carry my daughter Juliet out of her bed and down in a transition into a funeral scene. It was very heavy. Not her, no, she was light as a feather. She was a teeny little thing, but like the emotion was fucking heavy. Sorry. I could have walked miles with, like she weighed nothing. It's not that. She was a little teeny bird, but it was like, the tears were rolling. And I told her that. I'm just like, listen, I appreciate you. I probably will cry in this scene because I'm a dad, and this is like I'm playing out my worst fear. And this is what I'm most afraid of. Excuse me. And the conditions of this, Jesus, like I also said to her, because I was shirtless in this show, like that was one of the other challenges. I had to I didn't have to bulk up or anything like that. I mean, truthfully, like I lost water weight during the week, and that's like I guess like that's also a thing that actors do is just they starve themselves along the way. They're not just bulking up, but they're fucking like doing all these weird diets and things. And I just think it's nonsense. But I was shirtless in this scene, and I was ready for it. I was like, why not? Let's do this. What am I working out for if not for this? So I carried her down a flight of stairs, across the stage, set her down, and I'm just weeping. Because I'm just so in it. It's not just this physical task, which is to imagine, this is the task, is to imagine your own self in this situation. Just there you are. And it's Shakespeare, so you have no choice. You give over to it. And I set her down, laid her down in her final, where I will never, I'll never see her again. And I was weeping so hard. And so I was shirtless in this show because it was kind of this Mad Max kind of concept, and it looked really cool. But I said to her, as I was carrying her, I'm like, I'm going to cover your little shroud, okay? Like, I'm going to cover you up because I'm sweaty. And tears are rolling. And anyway, COVID protocols, let's just mask you during this, and you can just relax at that point. You can keep your eyes closed, and nobody will worry about it, or you breathing or anything like that. But no, don't mask, but just like, we have a barrier. I created a barrier between us. And you do these things for each other. And I set her down. I was crying so hard. And I had if I'd had more preparation or another week or two or something like that to get ready, still have to do this task. I found myself, I had this transformation. I had this crazy moment, like that rarely happens, where I just couldn't take it. And I told my co-star in the preparation, I just said to her, be ready. How about this? When you get up to go, just take me with you and just take my arm and we'll go off together. Thank you, my lady Capulet. Because I was a mess. So I had these gloves on, and I was so upset and so taken with this experience that I had the glove on and I started screaming into this glove. I was, just this experience was so overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do. And it went on for a really long time too. It was a really long funeral scene. What are you going to do? You just like it. It required no preparation. It just required the prep I did was to just be open to it. Because if you're open to it, you let it in. And then when camera is rolling, or when you're live in front of an audience, you can really go with it and really let it go. Because I'd built up to it. I knew my material. I done Shakespeare for a long time, and I knew my way around this particular. I'd worked at this stage before, so it's familiar territory. And yet, it's always new. It always should be as scary as possible. I think the scarier that it is, the harder you're going to work. And you shouldn't keep doing the same thing over and over again, or it won't be interesting after a while. You'll be able to do it hungover, which is terrible. Performing a matinee hungover, it's fucking horrifying. It's just brutal. I mean, it's doable, of course, but you're not giving the audience enough, like, at that point, man, hang on a second. So your preparation is caring for the instrument, because you have to go out on that ledge, and you have to, like, and they're there to pull you in. But then after I was done howling at the fucking, like howling into this glove like a mad maniac, I my co-star Vicky is walking me off, and she's wonderful, and she played this once before, and she was so good. I mean, she's younger than I am, and does this shit all the time, and is just like this great actor who I'd never met before. She's wonderful. We were both thrown into this last minute, and she just gives me her arm, and we walked off together, and we used it as a moment where we discovered, like, whoa, this is a moment where Lord and Lady Capulet can reconnect. How cool. And then I said, okay, thank you. And I would tap her, and I would just walk off for a moment. I needed that. And in between takes, hopefully with your scene like that, that kind of scene, it's kind of a one-take deal. If it were in front of a camera, after it's done, what I did after the scene was done, throughout the run, throughout those nights, I just walk for a moment and look off to the sky. We had a beautiful moon. It's a beautiful outdoor venue. And okay, now let me gear up. Okay, I've breathed. Come back to myself, back to Bart, come back to everybody else. We're like sort of like checking in with each other. You all right? Good scene, man. And I have to relax in between. I have to joke in between. I have to get back to myself in between. I can't stay in that same place for too long, because I have to recover. It's a trauma. It's like you're experiencing basically a simulated trauma up there. So, give yourself a moment. And I want to talk more about that later. I mean, like, that is another whole subject, is acting, is the actor and trauma, like what that's all about. Like, cause it can be horrifying to go to those places again and again, and it can take a lot out of you. And so what I'm saying is, you need a practice and a preparation schedule of your day that allows for all these things. Because in preparation for the role, I would wake up, I think my mind was sharpest, and I would go at the material, and then I would do something very physical for a while, and then I'd go into like a workout, and then I would go piece by piece through all scenes. Then I prepared my script, I marked it up and stuff like that. And so that by the time so that's a level of immersion. But how about that? That doesn't mean that I'm like this guy all the time. It doesn't mean that I'm just like involved in this. It's that I am when I'm in the scenes, when the camera's rolling, we're doing all that stuff, I'm there. But much of the rest of the time, I need to build up to that. So before I go on, I do have a little bit of I take as much time as I can, as much time as is available, every moment that I'm there. I'm working, of course we're prepping. And, even when your fucking lines, even when you're like in a run and you still prep, you still have to spend part of your time before you go on. I believe in going through the whole material, going through the whole script again, and knowing, just it can't hurt. Because every moment you're on set, or every moment you're at the theater, I think you should be in there. There's a lot of different ways, and some people like the energy of one another. I mean, and you also have to spend some time building up the energy with one another. And that does mean some just unfocused, like joking around. I swear to God, before you go on, joke around together a little bit. You know, like there's nothing wrong with that because it gets your energy up and it's great and it's natural and it's fun and it means like if you're connecting off stage, man, you'll be connecting like hell on stage. You know, like it's on, baby. And I mean, I think we all know that it has a dual purpose. But some people, I don't know. I think that some people can. I'm sure it can go too far, and you can have a real cut up in the cast. I'm sure, or you might be the cut up in the cast. You got to just understand the space that everybody needs to do this work. Everybody, every single individual up there. You know, think about like the Rockettes. They go on, and they do that show night after night, day after day, again and again and again. And they're an amazing ensemble. They're so tight in their choreography. Everything is perfection. And but you know that every single one of them, and how many Rockettes are in that line, I don't even know. But every single one of them has to warm up and prep ahead of time. And that means knowing your choreography, probably going through things, you know, like having to do the steps. And so you are doing the same thing as an actor. You're sort of like, I go from here to here to here. And so with as much preparation time as you have, just use the time. So what I'm recommending is blocking out that time too. Okay, so thinking of it very carefully. You know, I don't spend a lot of time. I don't think about like eating. You know, sometimes on a set. So let's think about the day that you're on a set, a movie set. I'd spend part of that time, of course, prepping the wardrobe and the makeup and understanding those things. And as you're doing that, don't treat like that as like, oh, what's all this new stuff? Oh my God, coming at me. No. It's all so helpful. You know, like people poking at your face. It's all so helpful in creating this performance. All the things that are about to happen. Use it. You're physically performing. You're physically putting on, and you're connecting. Like these little, like your character and you are following each other in parallel, but you're establishing connections between each other until when you roll, you want unity. You know, you don't want your prep to show. You want your process to be absolutely invisible. You want it to be an absolute mystery. So, hair and makeup, and you're on to set, and there'll be a little downtime. Spend it working on your material or working ahead, because you no doubt have maybe you'll have other scenes ahead, and you need to know them. Especially take the time with, take your time. Just get your lines, rehearse it in front of a camera if you can, and take a space away from everybody to do it. Unless you have somebody helping you, which is very nice. But also, I think you need some time by yourself. I think that's really healthy. Because you can't need somebody else to get ready. You may not have that luxury. That may be very nice that you have. For instance, like your sound person or your makeup person are often people that you sit with each day and you get to talk with a little bit, and it's very healthy. It's like sort of like it's a great relationship that you can forge, and it's helpful. Again, it's helpful in the steps along the way. Then you're on set, you're in costume. Rehearsal is a wonderful gift if you have it, and you'll get what you get. And that's not a time to, by that point, you have to know everything that you're saying, and it's kind of shocking. It's a bucket of cold water thrown at you. If you're on, like a show like Chicago Fire that I was on once, it's a very established setup, and you're the new guy. And it was all centered around this. It was a big shot, a lot of people in trucks and all this stuff. You can't fuck around with it. You have to know it. It's cold, man. Cold. And so, it's hard. Fucking nerve-wracking. And you have more than one chance to get it. You do. There is more than one chance to get, because they want to keep going until they get what they get. Don't take too long. You, the day player, the supporter, you can't have like a long process. You need to be very, very quick and agile and able. And because you're there to support the people who are doing the really hard things. You're part of what grounds them. And it's really funny. A lot of the time, what I tell actors is like, you're playing the real world against which the movie star, who might seem is kind of an otherworldly being, to the audience, they are kind of a mysterious otherworldly being. So if you are in a scene with a great other actor, and I've had the great pleasure of working with like actors that I truly admire, I'm like, God, I'm in awe. Like it's really true what they say about some people. In Chicago Fire, there I am with Eamon Walker, an astonishing actor, this British actor who I didn't know was British because he'd been in this American. So he's like an Idris Elba sort of like thing that he's doing where he just has this killer voice, and he'd been, oh my God, he's British. So impressive. And we blew a take. We had this one fiasco, not on the big, huge, when trucks are driving up and things like that. You only get one or two. They only do that, and they've got it down, and like you just walk it. And like you're in the wide, you just have to really, really know your blocking, and your moves have to be very, very clear. You just have to know your marks. Okay, so at the wide, you've gotten through the rehearsal, which hopefully was enough time to get the rhythm of it. Run through it. Everybody knows what they're saying, and everybody knows where they're going to be. Okay, when they feel they're ready, they're like, "Let's do it." They're not going to roll until till they are ready, and so like you need to your prep ahead of time, and you only have the time that you have. And sometimes you're even being handed the material there on the spot. Jesus, just good luck with it, man. Just God bless you on this journey. Whatever, man. Just like whatever you got to do, like nail it. Because if you do, the good stuff happens. The magic is suddenly happening, and like all the pleasure of performing comes in. The love of performing can come in. Once you've balanced it out against all these technical challenges, of doing this. Then on the other side of that, once you've crossed the threshold, let's roll. The wide. You're in the wide. You're in relation to your environment. That's how the camera is placing you. Let's call this number 3. We're going to count down from 3. We're in 3. There's 3 or more people here, or 3 or more objects. Now we're going to go to the medium. So we've established here, this is what they call an establishing shot, and it's where you are in relation to the whole entire environment, the wide, okay? Now you're into the medium. They're coming in a little closer. Now I'm face to face with this wonderful actor, Eamon Walker. And we had this funny moment where it's like we knew that the take was going to be, they weren't going to use it because there was a siren in the background. We're in Chicago. We're in a street in Chicago. We're in the middle of everything. It's one of these scenes where there's a fire and trucks roll up. I'm a cop and he's the police chief. And here's this thing. This is a real lesson. This is great. Here's this siren in the background. And he's so charming. He says, because we're in the middle of it, we hear that siren, we're like, well, and before they yelled cut, we knew it was kind of over. So he says, it's in the middle of here he breaks out of it, because normally he's real gruff of Chicago, tough guy, American accent. Then he breaks out of it, he's just this elegant, smooth, like, Brit, and he just goes, man, when I heard the siren in the background, I knew that the take was blown, so it was the wrong thought. And I said, the wrong thought. Yes, that's it. You got to stay. Like, if you're acting and you're having that wrong thought, when you're actually like thinking of the real conditions of wherever you are, whatever's on the other side of the barrier beyond the production, whatever's on the other side out there, if that is coming in, then it's the wrong thought. And he said, oh, sorry. What a wonderful thing he did for me, because I thought I'd blown. So I thought I'd done something wrong. And so he just said, oh, so, you know, he just sort of like was so gracious about it, which is one of those things that I think older actors can do so well. And here's a guy I just admire so much. And he was cool too, you know, so it's like, it just makes the whole thing, like he just has this natural facility with it. He's just made for this, you know, and me, I'm just struggling to just seem normal, which is what I am. I'm supposed to be the world. He's an otherworldly being. He's tall and handsome and smooth and has really great voice. And it's my first day on Chicago Fire, and I'm just a nameless narcotics officer, you know. I'm just playing a position in this thing. And so my job, though, here's the thing. It also might be that, you know, I'm supporting them when they're in something difficult. I got to be their other. And what I help them with, because really it's his character arc. It's the arc of all these characters that I have nothing to do with. I'm just dropping in. You know, I'm just an encounter that they have along the way. And if you're a day player, this is like the kind of job you would do. And I'd auditioned many, many times, and now I'm there. And it was over before I knew it. It was like such a... It was actually quite easy by the time I was there, but it was at the end of a lot of preparation. So we've gone from the wide. He told me ahead of time. Eamon Walker said, we met, we'd rehearsed, and he said, welcome to the circus, mate. And I said, what do you mean? Everybody's been so nice. And he says, no, you'll see. And I didn't know what he was preparing me for the big technical thing that we're about to encounter. And along the way, I was like, I asked him, you know, do you ever trip on the fire hose? And he said, all the time, mate, all the time. And then he just drops back in and he's just like, where's the fire? There are drugs inside. All right, it's an active crime scene. Let's go. But then he just drops out, and then in between takes, oh, sorry, mate, it was the wrong thought. You know, just like, so, it's great. It's acting. You know, it's what tremendous actors can do. And, wow. So anyway, you're going from the wide, so you're picturing fire trucks rolling up and all this stuff, to the medium. Just me and him. And now you're into the close-up or the single. Okay? So you've gone from the wide, which is your relationship with the world, to the medium, which is your relationship with your other, to the close-up, where I really need you to think now about your relationship to the lens, not your relationship to the whole camera or the person behind it or anything like that. And I don't want you to think about it too much, but I want you to always know where that lens is. Not where don't think about the camera, think about the lens, think about the eye. The small like disc through which all this light pours in. Okay? And it's so small. It's so sensitive. And it sees everything. It's not like a human eye that sort of takes in some of this information, and it's like this is solely focused. It has no other thoughts in its mind. It's only seeing you. And so that's where this is where we measure it in commitment, man. And again with students, as soon as the camera gets up close, there's no bullshit at that range. So don't think about it. Don't look at it. Get used to it. Just get the feel for it. Because when it's there and it moves up, it's gonna sneak up on you. It's gonna be kind of scary. So it's just, there's a moment of just like, there's a camera right there, and it's not just that. You're just like, fucking camera. It is too, because new camera, like it's just some state of the art, extraordinary thing. Usually, like every time I'm like, what a piece of gear that is. Like what a phenomenal device that man has on his shoulder, or person, or whomever is holding this thing, and what a skill they have to keep this going. Okay, so my skill is in, I'm not going to give the performance of my life, I know that. It's just a day player job on a, I don't even, my character doesn't even have a fucking name. But that's because I represent the real world. The focus is on the key character. They're the ones that They didn't show up to see narcotics officer number 1. They showed up to see the chief. They showed up to see Eamon. And when you're in a scene with him, I mean, you're nothing. Like, this man's presence is really, really colossal. I mean, it's like like I would compare him to, like he's just tall and don't forget the comparisons. Like he's magnificent. Like he's he's just a statuesque giant like presence, and he's just a classic Shakespearean actor. And now you're intimate with them, and you're like right there with them, and so they make it very easy. It's the good news. No need to be intimidated, because they're so natural that you'll fall right into it. But that's just it. At this distance, don't choke and sort of like think about too many things at once. So you've done those thinking about where you are in relation to the world, where you are in relationship to your other, where you are in relation to the lens. You have your eye line that's established. You know where you're looking, and always ask that. That's where am I looking? Thank you. It's a great question, and and then hopefully they'll give you a target. It's either the other actor, or it's a space where they are, or it's above their head. I mean, there's all these adjustments that you just have to be ready to make. Versatility, man. Versatile is the best thing that an actor can be, I think. Just adaptable and ready to go with these circumstances and ready to make it into something. It's amazing. You have multiple chances at it at this point. One of the easiest setups for the team is here, this single. And they understand that it's difficult, so they want to give you a few tries at it. So you probably have about 3 takes. And if they don't expect that you'll get it right on the first one. Hopefully they'll work with you a little bit, and they'll tell you the pace and the rhythm and things like that. That's a thing that you either need to figure out on your own or figure out with your other actor. But, you also have to do what you auditioned with. You have to come with that energy. You have to be what they liked in the audition. You can't, if they haven't told you what to do, you just have to keep going like you are. And that's that moment of like, what do I do? You trust yourself enough to be open to it. I don't know what to do. Cate Blanchett knows the pattern, but I don't know if she knows how far it'll go. I don't know if she's going to come out of it like being like, she might come out of it being like surprised. I mean, honestly, I think that it's because acting is always like, you don't ever hit the hole in one. It's not about that. It's about this like process of, it's about, as Pudovkin says, it's the struggle. That's what acting is the struggle towards this unity with yourself and the character. And you're struggling against weather conditions. You're struggling against all these technical constraints, material that you may not fully connect with, or could be very, very difficult. Like commercial material, like with technical specs and things like that, it can be very, very hard to learn and understand. It's terrible. It's hard. It's the hardest thing. One of the hardest parts about it is doing something that's like unfamiliar, challenging material. I'm not going to call it bad. I'm just going to say it's really challenging. I keep a file of like the most challenging commercial scripts that I've ever worked with. And those are the ones I give to my students. The ones with like accounting software and stuff like that, that kind of lingo. Anyway, this lesson is meant to be about that, I guess that preparation experience of going from receiving the job, and then and when you have a very, very short amount of time until you go. Now, if you're in school, if you're an actor in school, if you're in college, you have you have weeks of rehearsal and things like that. I mean, and you have far more rehearsal than you might ever have. Excuse me. LaCroix. But it's it's vital. Even when you have all those weeks, you're still going to feel short on time, right? You're always going to wish you had more time, more days, more chances at it. So you have to fight against that reality by pulling off the miracle of acting, which is to believe in and to know the character, and to create that special bond with the character, the union with them via a struggle, right? So Podovkin's full quote, what is it? That the aim and object of the technique of the actor is a struggle for unity, for an organic wholeness within the lifelike image they create. Man, cool as hell. Roll that back and play it again if you need to. Because it's vital. The struggle for unity, for the organic wholeness within the lifelike image that we create. Isn't that great? So if you think of it as a struggle, and you think of it as like, Leo personifies it so well in The Revenant. I mean, think about that. Just this struggle with these elements, this real struggle with it, with an animal or with the physical task. Just like Cate Blanchett is struggling with the you see with the famous shot. I mean, it's going to be a now famous shot from below where she is conducting, and it's just the most like ecstatic thing. It's a physical thing that an actor does, and she just she has that thing because she's also she's a dancer, is a physical performer. She's, in addition to Cate Blanchett is a multi-talent, multifaceted performer who can I don't know, she can probably sing too. I mean, I don't know what her range is when it comes to like all of her special abilities, but she can now, it seems that she learns whatever she to do whatever she needs to do, and in order to embody that thing, and so it is part this mastery of material, and her voice is so good, and you can always measure like the commitment is also like there's just truth in a voice, and I guess when you really feel what you're saying, when you really know what you're saying, it's going to carry on your speaking voice. If you're reaching for it, it will show. It'll hit in a different part of your voice. And I'm not saying there's an incorrect part of your voice, but there is a correct part of your voice that you can find. And that will vary. I'm not saying that there's one way. Obviously, Eamon Walker is using a character voice, just like Cate Blanchett of Australia, which is a terrible accent. My dad's from there, and like I know that native accent, and like some Australian accents are horrendous. And Cate Blanchett, of course, is a very beautiful version of it, which is very, very smooth. She has a wonderful voice, as we know, but she doesn't often do a role in the native Aussie because it's just it's a very prickly dialect, man. It's just a real particular one. Anyway, so she's completely putting on a different voice. She's bilingual. The movie is part in German. She is also speaking the language of music, which, even for musicians, I'm sure that the things that she's describing are very advanced, And so for me, who knows music kind of like enough, it's mind-boggling. It's a whole new world. Now, there's a difference here. Like there's biopics, that's its own science and that's its own art form. This is like in the mode of depicting someone. It's like it's as though this is a real person, as though it's like a documentary. In a way, it follows them like in the preparation for this ultimate event. There are documentaries like that about like rehearsing with a great composer and conductor. And you get to watch them work. And so it's like that you see all the documentary, like the things that you would normally see in a documentary. However, you see them it's a very stylish film. It's done very, it's very clean visual, that like it's just a very geometric, like smooth surfaces and like very modern, like it's contemporary, like it just looks like this is just contemporary hard architecture, very little coziness to it. And her, she is just hard and prickly in every way, or not prickly, what's the word, she's just, I mean, it's like what the same kind of energy happens with like great brain surgeons, great operatic divas, operatic or you know, people who are like the greatest at what they do, and they have to like be very, very disciplined, and that means that they have to eliminate a lot of, that means a lot of things around them are like going to be very distracting because their work is so all encompassing and their work is so huge. Get the fuck out of their way. You know, so she's there. She may win the Oscar for it. She may not. It's not. I'm not going to get into that because I just hate that discussion. But it'll be in the. I mean, it's a lock for the nomination. But it's a thing that I hope people will see just for this virtuosic performance that you will see. I mean, she goes to the highs and lows, and so it's just the most. I mean, I was concerned that she went too far, or she would hurt herself in the process of doing this. So therein lies your challenge. But I hope we've identified a few places where you can look for help with the other person and then within yourself. You have to have a process by which you can do a scene however many times, as many times as you have to. Go again and again and again if you have to. There's so many things out of your control, so you know, you don't know what they're going to pick out. Just follow it where it goes, and hopefully it'll feel good by the end of it, because they'll just be like, that's it, all right, cool, moving on, all right, fantastic. And if that's your last day, they'll be like, that's a wrap on you, and like they'll say your name and everybody's woo, you know, like right on. You meet all these cool people. It's great, cool energy. But it's also, that's the thing, you have to stick it, you know, you have to nail it. You'll have a few chances at it. My guess is you'll have about 3 takes per setup on most things. I mean, there are some shots that have to happen the same way. Take all the time that you need to prepare. And you won't often feel unprepared. You know, like, I think if you do all these things, you will feel like as ready as you can be to be open to it. And of course you'll be scared. Because you want to do it well. You want it to be good. You're scared because you want it to be excellent, and you're so scared of what people will say. You know, I mean, it's you're worried about that asshole, like I described before, who walks up and says, "Man, that movie was fucking terrible. You were good in it though." And it's like, why don't you kill me, man? You know, like. Anyway, fuck all haters. I want you to take this and just work with it a little bit, okay? I'm going to get on to a few other subjects as we go. This is the beginning of something. I swear, I want to move in a kind of, I want to focus one thing at a time. So whether or not you see Tar with Cate Blanchett, go see it and get just as much of a taste as you can of this. I mean, it's a difficult film, and it's not going to be like other films. I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough watch, and it's complicated, and it's very adult. It's grown up shit. So get ready. You know, I mean, this is not you. If you've only been watching, if you've been watching less challenging fare, this is one is going to be quite a big meal. You know, that's why it's important. I mean, and it's not only as a performance, but as a great film altogether. Great, beautiful filmmaking, just cinematographic art is going on here, and that it's about music. However, it's a movie that's filled with silence. So I've said enough without saying too much, I hope. Go with this, share it, and then I'll leave comments open in the down there for questions if you have them. But be nice, you know, and be nice to each other. I think that if we're students of acting, if we're all into this, you know, we're really, really into the craft of it. We're all about making it good. We all have that in common. And no one has the right answer. You might along the way find what works for you, but there is no one single approach, even when you see something done at such a massive level. And I'll give you this last thing, which is, if you're going to prep, if you're working out, combine it with your acting prep. Because you're working out anyway as an actor, which I think it's good. I mean, do whatever it is that's physical or just active. I think it's also important, like, and it can be knitting. It can be anything, seriously. But you need to have an action that you're doing as you go. Whether it's knitting, or whether it's running on a treadmill, or holding a plank. I used to hold a plank and do Hamlet, recite to be or not to be, because it's about 2 minutes long. And if you can hold a two and a half minute plank, you're killing it, bro. But holding that plank and just to be or not to be, that is the question. It keyed into, well, it triggers the breath. And great performances that are physically involved like this, pay attention to the breath. Oftentimes, I'm not saying it's a physical thing, but if you get your energy up in a physical way sometimes, and you get the breath going, which is just in realistic, because you're in a clutch situation. You just come from somewhere, you're walking up. I'm exaggerating, but you're going to. But if you really, really go and you do a few push-ups and you get up your heart rate, you're going to get into the scene and you're going to feel a little bit more of something, so that when you do finally go, and your line is, "Sir, you better not go in there." Take 2. All right, pause, reset. "Sir, you better not go in there." Okay, good. Pause, reset in between. If you have a moment, go and get in your prep again and get into it. It'll feel great, and you'll go in there. And I think what you want about what I'm doing, I'm just playing the security guard role, which I often which you will play if you like stick with it long enough. You'll get to play a security guard. "Sir, you better not go in there. Sir, you better not go in there." How about this? I've seen what's in there, so I'm telling you. "Sir, you better not go in there." I've tried to make it real for myself. I've tried to enhance, and here I am. I'm phoning it in. I'm leaning on the counter this whole time. I'm in a kitchen, man. I'm not in a studio. But the struggle, showing that work and that level of commitment, I'm telling you, it opens up something too. It does something different. There's a funny video of a guy who was auditioning for something, and they gave him the Bourne Ultimatum or something like that as his text to use. Because he may not have the actual script from the movie that you're auditioning for. It might be some sample. So this guy, he kept doing it over and over again. He would run from the bottom of the stairs to the top of the stairs, and he'd say his lines because he wanted that physical prep. He wanted to be like De Niro in Raging Bull, just like work out on that heavy bag and then hit it when you get in the scene. But you do have to do more prep than that, because I think the guy was overworking it, because he would run from the bottom of the stairs, get to the top, and he'd blow the scene. He'd blow it, and then he'd have to do another take. And by the time the guy has done this, he's done about 8 or 9 takes, and you're just like, oh man, don't do it. If you have to run from the bottom of the stairs to get back into the scene, I'm all for having things like that. But what I would encourage you to do is to you're going to have to create a quicker process than that. You do have to know what it is to run from the bottom of the stairs to get into the scene. And it's not a bad instinct. But, like the famous story of Dustin Hoffman, who would run to the set of Marathon Man. And he got there one day, he's just like, I'm too fucking tired. I'm dehydrated. I just I can't. You just and apparently, and I don't even know if this is a real story or not. But yeah, Olivier is there, and he just says, "It's called acting." You didn't have to run to the fucking set. You didn't have to do all that extra work just to get here and blow it. Like that. In other words, that's the funny part of it. I'm not shitting on Dustin Hoffman because he's really, really good in that movie. It's just that he mixed up his... He put his energy into the wrong system. You need a lot of energy when you're on set. You need a lot of energy when you're on stage. You can't blow it all ahead of time. I think you need some preparation, Like the scene in Top Gun at the very beginning of Top Gun Maverick, where he's about to go up in the air, and he gets on, and they pump him full of oxygen while he's on the treadmill. And I like that they showed that moment. I mean, Tom Cruise loves to take his shirt off and show some his athleticism is on display at all times in this movie. He's always got his shirt off, and that was one. But I liked that of course, he's playing a fucking pilot. Like, what do you want him to look like? This is the pilot in the Navy, and he's Tom Cruise. This is what we're here for. He's amazing in it, by the way. It's great. It's a great film. But yeah, I love that he's running on the treadmill to get into this cockpit and show us the real struggle of what that's going to be like. It's a lesson. It's an acting lesson. Because he's really in there and he's really doing it. And you really listen to him breathing. Isn't it cool? We at home breathe along with him. So it hits a chord with you. It's true. Don't you find that when an actor is breathing like that, you either hold your breath with them or for them, or you breathe. You breathe. There's a breathing rhythm that goes along with them when you're seeing somebody do something death-defying. Gene. Why am I blanking on his name? Anyway, a great dancer. In the middle of what the fuck is his name? Oh my God, what is wrong with me? I mean, An American in Paris. The fucking guy is doing these pinwheel turns, and it's just fucking amazing. Only he can do it. Why do I blank? I am so bad with names. It makes life so awkward. Anyway, I can remember Hamlet, but I can't remember things like that. When I'm on the treadmill, I run my lines. When I'm holding a plank, I run them. It keeps me focused on the thing I'm going to do. It doesn't mean I have to go and run to play Hamlet. But by the time I do get up there, I'll remember what it was like. What my breath was like in those times. It's a lot easier than coming at it cold and just treating them as words. Treating them as actionable thoughts and deep, where you're showing the meaning. I mean, part of the challenge of Shakespeare is making it clear and understandable for the audience. That's why it's such a good lesson. That's why everybody should try it at least. Have work out a role, even if you never play it. I've never played Hamlet, but I've prepped it, and I know the lines. I can jump in. I could do it. Try it. Try getting on into your activity, and if it's knitting too, or whatever it is, washing the dishes, a normal everyday task. If you have to do it, run your lines during that time. Use that time. Because then you're to be or not to be, that is the question. It is not my mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Or to take it, and use your props, use your things around you. That way when you hit the stage, there'll be meaning and intention behind everything that you do. What I'll leave you with is this. You're going to play a full-fledged character by the time they arrive on that set. They arrive in that scene, they are complete. They're a complete, fully formed human being. We don't know you. We don't know, and it's our struggle is to portray that reality of that person's life, right? Now, the doing of it, there's a lot that goes into it. Is it physical? Yes. Is it mental? Is it a mental game too? Yeah, I mean it is, because you're navigating all these moves. You're in a maze. You're following in a very, very complicated. There's a complicated pattern within the material that you need to know. Then, the magic. The elusive magic comes in your ability to convey the reality of it. Can you connect yourself, are there these filaments? What are the things that you do have in common with the character? And you might be playing Macbeth, but you still have to do this. You know, like I took a quiz. What character in Shakespeare are you? You're Macbeth. Oh, great. I'm a murdering lunatic. Great. What are the things, though, that I do have in common with them? Well, I know what it is to, like, work in a partnership with someone I love on something that we both mutually desire. So I do have a joined, so suddenly parts of my life are joining with his. Those are filaments. Then there's the fears that I have in common with him. What he's afraid of. He's afraid of all the things that I think we're all afraid of. He's afraid of getting caught doing this thing. Like he's afraid of going crazy. And then he falls off that deep end and goes off on an absolute killing spree. A murdering, murder of thousands. Then that I don't have in common with him, but once I followed along, once I sort of figured out that I am him and he and I we did this throughout those early scenes, then you've really, really put some trust in Shakespeare at that point, because where it's going to take you is all the way into the dark parts of, in order to portray that murder. Here it is, it's a dream role, and play a villain like that, right? So what are you going to do? You have to do it. You have to be all in. It's hard, man. It's brutal, but it's acting. It's the real thing. And so Cate Blanchett just giving it all. I'm fucking mesmerized. I'm just like, and I'm also like, I felt gratitude towards her at the end. I wanted to applaud. I wanted to give her that standing ovation. And I do hope that whatever happens with these Oscars, the way that people will talk about this performance is that it is one of those legendary things. So I do think it's worth it to see that, because it is an acting lesson, and it is just it's spectacular. It's something. It's really something. Anyway, thank you. I stood here and I talked a lot longer than I thought. I hope I didn't leave anything out. Till next time. I'm Barton Bund, and I'm teaching acting. You don't want to act like I'm acting. You have to figure it out for yourself. You have to figure out your own voice and body and all the things that are going to make you unique. Truly, the edge that you will have is not in, are you capable of acting at that, like doing that thing that you consider acting. Like, whatever it is, whatever actor that you admire, don't just do what they're doing. They're doing something extraordinarily unique. And I swear to God, it's your uniqueness. This is not something that I thought was true. I didn't know this was real. I thought that I was meant to conform to something. That I was meant to follow something. But when I was in there, I had nothing to rely on but my instincts. And trusting those instead of trusting in some model for what I thought acting is. That made the difference. And so I just want to encourage you to understand what makes you unique and apply those things, okay? So the filaments that can connect you to your character as you're over here, because you're going to start way over here and they're way over here. They're way the fuck out there. And you are just going to be running to try and catch up to them at first, but once you are there and you begin and you're ready to begin the process and you're in, you're about to trust where they go, that's it. You've given yourself over to it. You've decided that oh my God, despite my fears, I'm doing it. Gene Kelly is the guy I was thinking of. Anyway, back to that. The things that I find in common with a character, take note of them. for yourself. Then that'll be enough to get you going. Because then at that point, it's almost like they're a part of you. You're fully in there. And you just go where they go. You go where they go. You'll have a few chances at it. You'll have those 3 takes. And moving on. It's beautiful. It's complicated. It's cool. It's really, really cool. I wish you the best. Next time, we're going to get into more specifics. I decided to do this one spontaneously after watching Tar, just because for me it was like, I have to break this down as an acting lesson. This is amazing. It's a long ass movie too, so just buckle up. I leave you with that. Thank you so much. Anyway, please follow me and blah blah blah. Follow me on. No, I'm on Instagram. Barton Bund Returns, and I'm here on. You're already here, so follow me, subscribe, and share with a friend if it's helpful at all. Just be like, hey man, don't show them the whole thing. Just give them a clip, whatever. Thank you so much. You are tons of fun.